Your life is calling and it wants you back. So if you're ready to answer that call, then you're in the right place. The Ad Tax Podcast with me, Jasmine. We're having unfiltered conversations about the cost of taking your life back. Because yeah, it's time to know your worth and add tax. Hey, I'm back. Long time no see. I look completely different from the last time I was recording, but it's me, Jasmine, your host of the Ad Tax Podcast, the podcast where I remind you to know your worth and then add tax, period. So I figured that this episode would be a little insight into, let's just call it my comeback episode of me coming back to this podcast. We have new setup, new direction, new insight, new clarity, and I want to share it with you guys because I've been gone for a really long time. And yeah, so I'm just going to get right into it because it's been a while. So let's catch up. First of all, how are you? If you're new here, welcome. If you've been waiting for me to come back, hey, I appreciate your patience. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on any of the other podcast platforms, don't forget to give this a thumbs up and leave a 5-star review. Yes, we love the 5 stars. Thank you in advance. And below, you can see everywhere that you can follow me on social media, if that's your jam as well. I'm in every corner of the internet, always doing something. So find me. Let's get right into it. So, first of all, I was taking a very long hiatus, if you will, because I got bit by the perfectionism bug again. And me and the perfectionism bug have had beef for many, many years of my life. And I feel like my battle with perfectionism largely stems from growing up in the church. And a lot of things in my life stem back to the church and that type of upbringing, because you're faced with that whole black and white binary of like, you're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. So either walk the straight and narrow or, you're going to hell. So it always made me feel like I had to be perfect and it just trickled into every area of my life, even if it had nothing to do with going to heaven or hell. So I do see it still crop up sometimes in my adult life, even after deconstructing Christianity and being on that journey. And in particular, when it relates to this podcast and just feeling like, okay, well, I either need to make every single episode really fucking good and like A++ level production, like I work in a literal production house, or making my episodes super long and holding myself to the pressure of making each episode like 45 minutes to an hour long, and feeling like if I couldn't do that or have like the perfect script and feel like if I couldn't produce that type of episode every episode, then I just wouldn't do it. So I just shut down and I wasn't recording anymore. I was sitting on one episode that I recorded back in October, and I've been sitting on that for a while, and I scrapped it because I was like, so much time had passed. I'm like, it's just not even me anymore. So, yeah. But the perfectionism, if you can relate, if you've struggled with it as well, then you know how hard it can be when you are on the journey of being your most authentic self and learning what that is and really throwing away a lot of the constructs that held you back for all of your life, but then still being like, okay, but I've always lived like this, so it kind of ekes in to certain areas still. So yeah, the perfectionism was definitely creeping back in there, and I think I think it's so I derive a lot of inspiration from other creators, but I think it was getting to a point of me being so involved on social media outside of creating that I was starting to compare myself as someone who had just began a podcast and comparing it to podcasts that I've been listening to for a while that, you know, everybody knows and loves, and feeling like that I had to measure up to that just right off the bat. And that's a lot of pressure because nobody's asking that of me. I was only asking that of me. And yeah, and that's not fair to do that to myself. So I had to work through that. And on top of that, also, there were a lot of haters that I didn't realize I had in my close camp. So that took a hit at my confidence, honestly, especially when they're people that I didn't think were ever going to be haters. And they turned out to be haters. And then after the whole thing with, like, if you guys watched previous episodes, whenever I started doing this alone and just how all of that went down and feeling like, okay, got all the snakes out the camp. And it was like, nope, there's still more snakes. So just having to deal with that and work through that as well and come to terms with the fact that not everybody is going to be rooting for me. But not even in that, like, obviously some people aren't going to like my podcast, point blank period. But the people that I did think would at least be supportive just because it's me and something that I'm creating and building for myself, and for a community of women, and just realizing that, oh, you don't like what I'm doing and you don't even want to understand what I'm doing. You would rather make judgments behind my back, talk about me behind my back. And once I found out, that didn't feel good at all. So I was pretty sad. And again, I think it just was like a pin to a balloon type of situation where I was just like, damn, like, okay. So I had to learn how to not only create without those people in my life, but also live life without those people in my life. So that in particular was kind of bigger than the podcast, but it did contribute to why I had to step away, because it was just some deep shit. And to segue into the next thing, I was also just going even more on my spiritual journey. So really strengthening my self-concept, because even though I haven't been doing the podcast, I have been doing a decent amount with ad tax affirmations and ad tax angels. Yep. While I was still posting on other platforms and creating other content, I was getting so wrapped up in the numbers of it all. And even with the podcast, I was very wrapped up in the numbers of this as well. And I just lost sight of why I love creating and why I actually do what I do. And even sitting here now, like, I feel so happy because I'm not sitting here like, what is going to perform the best for the algorithm, and what numbers do I need to hit in order to reach 1 million listeners on streams on Spotify? Like, no, that's so stressful. But I had to go inward. That wasn't something that I could really figure out while still creating content, because it was seeping into my creative process. So even with those other platforms and brands that I've been building, I even had to take some breaks from those. And I'm currently on a break from ad text affirmations and ad text angels. And even though I plan on getting back into those soon, I've had to take several breaks to really, because every time I would catch myself getting obsessed with the numbers and the performance and the metrics of my content, it took away the love I have for creating. And I would still get really good ideas, but sometimes I would just lean more into ideas that I just thought other people would like and not ideas that I genuinely liked for myself and things that I'm passionate about. And sometimes it would be a mix of both, but then it would become really overwhelming because I would have this cognitive dissonance of like, well, I really want to talk about crystals. And then in my head, I'm like, well, you said that we're going to be doing affirmations. And so it did kind of seep into that black and white thinking too. But there's a way to have both in a sense of like, or it's just a gray area. Of course, I want other people to resonate with my content and for them to derive value from it, but that can also come from ideas of things that I love to talk about and that I'm super passionate about myself. So I had to do some thinking, but that was really a spiritual thing for me, and just really being confident in my voice, working more on feeling safe too. Safety with myself has been a major thing that I've been working on recently. And for a couple months of just feeling safe and regulating my nervous system, because there is that fear of like, oh, is nobody gonna like this? Is it not gonna do well? But when I just work on feeling safe and safe with myself, and it's like, no matter how it, quote, performs on the algorithm, I'm happy with it. I like it. And I like myself. So when I do really see and feel the energy behind everything that I do, and I don't like creating and putting content out when my energy isn't right with myself and when I'm not in alignment with myself. It just doesn't feel right. So I've really had to work on being my number one biggest fan first and foremost. And I've always been rooting for me. But again, when you, as someone who is on the internet every single day, because that's where I put out my content and art and whatever else you want to call it, I do scroll. I do scroll. And of course, the algorithm most times is going to show you just the high performing content. So I had to detach. Detachment, that's the word. I had to really work on mastering detachment, and I'm still working on mastering detachment, but I've gotten so much better. And that's why I was like, I feel ready to record again, and I feel ready to step back into creating for everything that I'm doing, because I don't have that same level of fear over what happens once I put it out into the world. So there's that. And then the overarching vibe of all of those things was just that it just wasn't fun anymore because of how obsessed I was with the metrics and blowing up on TikTok and all of the stuff that I just mentioned. It wasn't fun. So why would I sit down every single week to sit in front of the camera, come up with ideas and all this stuff if it's not fun? Like it just felt like more work in my life, and I like living an easy life. I don't like when things are hard for me. I don't. I like having an easy ass life. So once it just felt so overwhelming and like stressful. And I was like, so it just made me shut down and not want to do it anymore. So I didn't do it. I did other things that I thought were fun in the meantime while I sorted out all the internal shit that I had to work through. But I think that it's a great lesson in how it's okay to step away from something that is no longer bringing you the joy that it was intended to, or serving the purpose in your life that the thing was intended to serve in the first place when you started it. It's totally okay to either drop it completely or take a break. I knew I was never going to drop the podcast completely, and that's only something that me and like two other people knew. So I'm sure to everybody else, it seemed like she ain't never coming back. And that's okay, because I think it will. I was going to say something, but I'm not going to say it. It's okay. It's okay. People thought that I wasn't going to come back because, you know, maybe it's the Leo in me, but I don't mind when people underestimate me because I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't feel like I have to really explain that to people. And y'all are just going to see me pop out when you see me pop out. But going forward, I really want to ease back into this so that I don't burn myself out, because again, I am doing multiple things, which you should totally check out if you are interested. If you're somebody that likes talking about more spiritual things, and even if not, even if you're just working on your self-concept as well, definitely check out Ad Tax Affirmations. It's at Ad Tax Affirmations on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and okay, wait. First, but second, and then Ad Tax Angels. If you are into animal welfare and animal rights and you just love animals like I do, you will love Ad Tax Angels. Over there is where I talk about things that are going on in the world with animals, whether that it comes to animal abuse, animal rights development, news in the animal kingdom. That's where you can find all of that stuff being talked about by me. And I did officially drop my Gumroad store, you guys. If you don't follow me on any other social media, then you probably wouldn't have seen it. But I did make an announcement a couple months ago that I did drop my Gumroad store. So my Gumroad store is just a digital storefront. So it's really the Ad Tax Studios store. And Ad Tax Studios is the whole umbrella where Ad Tax Podcasts, Ad Tax Affirmations, and Ad Tax Angels are all hanging out under. But yeah, if you want to support me even more, I have already put up a couple different items on there for people to check out, and I plan on dropping some more, and I am working on opening my Etsy as well for Ad Tax Studios, so that will be coming soon. And I do still plan on launching the Patreon, so stay tuned for that. But again, with how I was moving before, everything felt so overwhelming that I was like, the Patreon has to be perfect. But now that I'm like, the Patreon is just going to be a fun little hangout spot for us to just vibe and, you know, be hot and fun together and live our best lives and have some extra stuff that you can't find anywhere else from me. So Patreon coming soon. But the Substack, I am putting a pause on the Substack. Yeah, because the perfectionism as a writer is still something that I'm working on, if I'm going to be completely transparent, as somebody who is actually trained in writing and editing. I just have a much higher bar for myself when it comes to that, and I'm still working on that so that I can put out my writing and my thoughts and not have to worry about it being absolutely perfect. But we're taking it one step at a time, you guys. Life is a journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So Substack will come at some point. Maybe whenever I get some help with all the other things, but I really am a one-woman show, so I gotta figure out what makes sense for me at the stages that I'm at now, you know? And thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm glad that we got to catch up. In the next 3 episodes, we are going to get back into the Matrix. Yep, me talking about the Matrix, my Matrix, and we are going to finish that out. That's not going anywhere. I really want to talk about that. So buckle up because it's going to be good. And I'm just really happy to be able to come back and show up more authentically and have more fun. I just want us to all have fun while we're talking about these things, because some of the stuff is, it can be a little heavy sometimes. And life is never that deep. Like, it's deep, but it's not that deep. If you like this episode, please like this episode. Please drop a comment down below. DM me any questions, comments, anything that you have. Remember to never let ugly trolls ruin your day, and to know your worth and then add tax. Hey Diva, thanks for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, make sure you leave 5 stars, drop a comment, and share it with someone who needs it. And I'll catch you in the next episode of the Add Tax podcast. Remember, know your worth and then add tax.